Another massive legal victory for the 97th Judicial District happened last week with the trial of Bobby McNair in Archer County.
It marks the third conviction in just over a year when 97th District Attorney Katie Bogman was sworn into office to lead the prosecution in Archer, Clay, and Montague counties.
Josh Hoggard spoke with Bogman about the trial today, and he joins us now with more. Josh?
Yeah, guys, like you said, another major conviction for the Tri-County 97th District, covering Archer, Clay, and Montague counties. And for the woman who prosecuted the case, District Attorney Katie Bogman, it was a trial that was long overdue.
One of the hardest facts is that the case has sat for 4.5 years.
Katie Bogman has been the district attorney for the 97th Judicial District since last August, already trying a handful of long pending cases in Archer, Clay, and Montague counties. Most recently, the case of Bobby McNair, facing multiple child sex crime allegations.
When you have a case that sat that long, that truly relies on the memory of the witnesses as the facts, it's very, very hard. And then you throw in the fact that there's children at the helm.
The victims, whose names are being withheld to protect their identity, were 6 and 10 when the assaults took place. When they took the stand against McNair during his trial, they were just 11 and 14. It's one of the things that made McNair's trial so difficult on Bogman, who was a mother herself.
The hardest thing is the children, having to recount that tragedy for them, those horrific things that they've tried to forget, and have them give details of things that no child should ever know, much less have to talk about in a courtroom full of strangers. And then you're asking for all that time later to come and tell us exactly what happened and all the details. So it's very, very difficult in that regard.
The challenge is finding the balance between executing the case and empathizing with the victims.
That's a hard line to walk for a prosecutor, and I think even more difficult for prosecutors who are parents too, because re-traumatizing these children is the last thing that we want to do. So there's so many things that come into play.
Bogman says a plea deal was offered to McNair before the trial. It would have been a much lighter sentence, but it would have protected the victims from taking the stand. She says McNair turned down her offer, forcing the victims to testify, a fact that the mother of one of the victims pointed out during her impact statement, that McNair chose to try and save himself.
I think that's truly because he believed, as a manipulator does, that he could manipulate the jury in the trial.
But the jury didn't buy it, convicting McNair on all 6 counts, sentencing him to 60 years for aggravated sexual assault of a child and 20 years on each of the indecency charges, with the judge granting Bogman's request to stack the sentences. In her impact statement, the victim's mother said her daughter has to live with the trauma for the rest of her life, so she, without a reasonable doubt, believes McNair should as well. But that conviction's not all that came from this trial.
In the midst of investigating this offense, we became aware of some allegations against Michael McNair.
Bobby's father, Michael McNair, now stands accused of sexual assault of a child, indecency by contact, and indecency by exposure. The case now also pending in Clay County.
I think it will become more apparent of how those are connected.
Bobby McNair marks the 3rd major case Bogman's office has prosecuted since she took office, with Joshua Fulbright being convicted of capital murder for the death of 2-year-old Olivia Newsom, and Gregory Bell being found guilty of the first murder in St. Joe since the 80s and sentenced to life in prison. 3 major victories that Bogman says she couldn't have won alone.
I have a group of people who work so hard, and everybody cares so much about trying to really tackle the backlog and trying to really do the right thing. I'm grateful. That momentum from my office, I hope, never stops.
Because the work of the 97th District Attorney's Office isn't at all done.
You know, it's almost like you don't really ever have an opportunity to revel in anything because there's just so much still left undone. We have so many other people that are still waiting.
Now, you can read more about Bogman, all 3 of the major cases that her office has prosecuted so far this year, and get a look ahead to another major case on the dockets for the 97th District Attorney's Office over on our website, Texomashomepage.com.
Like you said, such satisfaction, on those conclusions of those cases. Happy to see those take place. Josh, thank you so much for bringing us that story.